see what that means, obviously.
All right. Well, good morning for our welcome to the third AMA. And I'll get started. I'll first talk briefly a couple big picture topics, and then I'll start jumping into the questions. I'll give everybody a chance to warm up and everybody else to get on who may be running a few minutes late. First off, I'll discuss kind of where we are with relation to the pandemic, vaccine, et cetera. It appears that we may be past the peak from the holidays with respect to new cases in COVID. It's going to take another couple of weeks to kind of see that trend play out. But the 7-day average has dropped pretty significantly over the last week or so. The 14-day average is still trending high, but that drops a little later as the cases drop down. So hopefully we are past that peak and we can see that continue to drop into the spring. We're still well above where we want to be with respect to changing our stance with remote working, mask, and those kinds of things. So I'll say, the goal is to get back down into the single digits like we were in the May-June timeframe. So that's where we are with respect to COVID cases. Now, from a vaccine perspective, right now the governor's priority was obviously the frontline healthcare workers. They're directly impacting patients. That's been reasonably well accomplished to include those in fire rescue who want it in general, have been able to get access to the vaccine. We've been able to get some of our 911 operators, and sheriff deputies who work in detention as well. The challenge right now is that it's the logistics issue, the supply. We can give more shots in Pasco County than we have supply right now every day. And while that's growing, it's not growing as fast as we would like. And obviously, if you only give a couple hundred shots a day to those over the age of 65, which is the current priority, it's going to take us months to get where we need to be. But I think relatively short order, next 6 to 8 weeks, manufacturing and logistics tail will catch up and probably get to a point where it's overwhelming our ability to actually give shots, which is why it's encouraging to see public start to step up and give shots in their pharmacies. The next thing is really to get the other pharmacies on board with that. But again, until we have more vaccine, you can only do so much. So that's where we are. The governor's current priorities are really, healthcare workers, those over 65. That is the focus. And last time I looked at Mike Napier stats last week, 93% of the shots that were given in Pasco County were those over 65. So that's good. That's where you really make a big dent in the fatality rate of the disease. And so that's kind of the focus right now. And hopefully over the next 4 to 6 weeks, manufacturing tail will catch up and we will see more vaccines show up, and we can continue to roll that out. So that's kind of where we are with respect to that. The CARES got extended. The money is extended through the end of the year. The family and quarantine leave piece of that got extended through the end of March. I don't expect that to get extended again due to where I think we'll be with vaccines in cases at that point. Our approach to that has always been we will continue to offer quarantine leave until there is enough vaccine that it's readily available to the general population and anybody can go get it. Then at some point that will convert to just like every other illness out there, which will be converting it to just normal PTO, just like if you got the flu or the cold or something else. So that's in the future. We will probably extend ours past the current deadline in the law, and then obviously the bargaining units are a little different, and they'll be handled a little differently. So that's where we are with respect to COVID. I know tomorrow's budget. I think Bob's budget kickoff meeting is tomorrow. I'm not going to steal his thunder. I will say that outside of a couple sources, revenues look reasonably good. So that's positive. That allows us to focus on some of the areas where we have level of service issues and maybe adjust and make some tweaks there to continue to improve the services we're delivering. We're opening a new fire station later this year, early next year. We got a new library that's going online in August there at Starkey. and so there are some things that we're working on that will eat into some of that. But in general, I think we're in a pretty good position outside of a couple, areas. We haven't seen gas tax recovery yet, although it's not as bad as it was, say, in April and May. And the tourist development tax is still coming back. So outside of those areas in general, we're doing pretty good. Sales tax is stronger than we expected, and some of the other things. From a building perspective, which leads to ad valorem revenue, we issued a little over $3 billion in permit values last calendar year. Now it takes a while for that to get into the ad valorem system because you got to build it and got to go on the records and everything. So, that a building permit usually doesn't affect our ad valorem rates for 18 to 24 months. And so, but 19, 20 were good. So we expect a pretty strong number there. I think the number budget will show tomorrow is probably a little more conservative than I would be, but we'll see where we go. So we'll see what the property, we have a new property appraiser, so we'll see what he gives us the first year as well. So I think those are kind of the two big issues hanging out there. With that, I'm going to jump into some of the questions. And again, feel free if you have questions, drop them into the chat, and we will work to get them answered. And again, the kind of two different types of questions, the ones that only I can answer, and I'm going to try to get to all those. And then there are the questions that are more operational in nature, and we will have, I may get to a few of them because it does touch a little bit on leadership and philosophy, but some of them that are very strictly operational, we will get the right subject matter expert to answer them, and we'll post that to the website when we're done, or when we get the answer over the next few days. So with that said, kind of let me jump into these. I'm going to kind of jump around between the different kinds of things. I think we have some time today, and in general, the question list is a little shorter than it has been the last couple times. And nobody asked me about an animal, which is good yet. So first off, I'll just start with the one I missed last time when I was going through the questions, which is what's on your bucket list. So I will say it's probably not a long list. The next thing we are working on doing and trying to get to is to see the Panama Canal, that engineering marvel that was done on, I guess now it's been over 120 years since that was probably opened. And so we are working on that. Unfortunately, the pandemic hurt and kind of delayed that probably at least a year till we get that and to get to go see that. So that's kind of the next thing. And then just, other than that, is, like I said, it's pretty short, the normal travel that other people would like to see. But in general, that's right, kind of the next thing on the list that we're trying to knock off. With that said, one of the questions, like I said, I'm going to jump around a little bit, was respect to some of our advisory boards and why they need to have a physical quorum as opposed to virtual. So part of that gets back to two things. One is the executive order that expired that allowed boards to meet virtually. The governor let that expire a couple months ago, actually. And so that's why we have been operating under the rules we operate on with the board. That applies to our other ones, other boards as well. And so part of the discussion and thought process was, let's not have different rules for different boards. Let's have one rule process where everybody, all the boards and commissions that meet as part of the county follow the same rules. And so, those are volunteer positions, or obviously with the elected board positions. And so those need to follow the standards and the rules and make sure that the public is adequately engaged and has the ability to participate in those meetings. And that includes being able to see the physical quorum in place. So that's kind of at a high level why we're doing that. What we know about COVID, the current CDC rules on contact tracing is, if you're not within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, unmasked, then they really don't contact trace you at that point. So, and we have set up our rooms to be able to maintain that distancing, and so it's reasonably safe as we get into that. And frankly, right now the the cases aren't being generated by gatherings like that, or even to a certain extent, some of the other large gatherings. They're really being generated by small family groups and small gatherings around, at this point around the holidays. So that's where people think, their friends or family, they can lower their guard. And that's really where we're seeing our cases being generated at this point. So another question, like I said, I'm going to jump back and forth between some of these is, where do you like to go when you eat out? Kind of depends on what we want. If it's hard to find decent Mexican here. I grew up in Texas and from South Texas. It's, the further you get away from the border, the harder it is to find good Tex-Mex. And so there's some of that. There's a little German restaurant, bar, pub, if you will, off of Bruce B. Downs that we enjoy from time to time. And there's some other places. So that's a hard one to answer because it all kind of depends on what we want, where we want to go. The next question I'll tackle is, how do you shake off a bad moment or get yourself out of a slump? I think a lot of that goes, I don't really kind of quit golfing when we started driving kids to soccer games and football games and all that kind of stuff. But it gets back into the, play the next shot. Forget the one that was behind you, play the next shot. I grew up playing baseball and, 2/3 of the time you fail when you go to the plate. And so you just had to learn to get over it, move on to the next at bat, the next inning, whatever. And so, that's part of that process and to keep the big picture in mind, where you are, what you're doing, what are you learning, and how do you move on, and what is the big picture, and are you staying focused on that, and are you still moving down the field to the ultimate goal, that whatever you want to achieve, whatever that may be, and stay on track with that. The next one is, what good thing happened to you today or this week? And I'm gonna so I'll steal a little bit of engineering's and Mike thunder out there. Last Thursday at the MPO workshop, the board questioned Turnpike on their participation in commitment to the Ridge Road interchange that 23 years ago they committed to fully funding, and now over the last 12 months they've kind of tried to back away from that as much as they can. On Friday, the team had a meeting with the state, and the state effectively came to the table and said, okay, we'll cover what we had committed to 23 years ago, which was a win, huge win for the county. The delta was about $10 million, and it sounds like, that they're going to cover that now. And so, that's positive. So I'll consider that a win, a good thing. It's a lot of good things that happen every day. It's kind of, we have a lot of good people doing great things. I hear a lot about it. So, between that or, wrapping up negotiations on, Project Merlin, or, just in other things where we're solving problems or continuing to innovate and make life easier and better on the people that live, work, and play here. We have those things happen every day. I just don't always hear about it. But that's kind of, that kind of keeps us going and moving the right direction. The next question is kind of an operational question, but I know the answer to this since I'm intimately familiar with the project. The question was about Ridge Road extension and when we think it to be complete. So the goal there is to get 2 lanes open from Moon Lake to the Suncoast this summer. Right now we're on track for the July timeframe. And again, part of the discussion last week was to help get FTE on board so that we could get that interchange work done as well. And I think we're there. It's going to be close with the interchange because there's some gantries and other equipment that have to be ordered. That is a little longer lead time item, but for the most part, our contractor is going to be done with the 2 lanes to the Suncoast this summer, earlier rather than later. Probably, like I said, the July timeframe, which is critical because one of the key points that the 2 reasons we're building it is one of them is hurricane evacuation, and so having the 2 lanes open in the July timeframe means that we are effectively ready for the normal hurricane season for an evacuation perspective. 2020 was a little weird from a hurricane perspective with the number of storms we had and how early they started. So hopefully we're back into a little more normal routine. There was a question about the status of the lawsuit. That's ongoing. We don't typically comment on pending litigation. That's the standard public answer. In general, I don't believe the board would be moving forward with construction if they weren't comfortable that we were going to ultimately, and frankly, it's not really even us. It's the Corps of Engineers and the Department of Justice their permit will be upheld. And so that's what we're thinking. That's why we're moving forward with construction on that. But again, we typically don't comment on that, and that's ongoing. We let them make press releases. We just keep doing the work and chopping wood, so to speak, on the project and moving forward. So another question, like I said, jumping around a little bit, I'm going to jump over to employee engagement. I got a couple questions on that. So one of the questions, and there was somebody actually saying 3, and so they're kind of tied together. The first one was, we recognize that engagement has increased since 16, continues to move in a positive direction, as we saw with the last survey that we kind of have gone through over the last month that we got back right into December. One of the questions is what we continue to increase engagement, and so that gets back to keep doing the things you're doing, keep doing it right. We started this journey 3.5 years ago. With building a foundation of trust, which allowed me to delegate decisions to the right level. We're continuing to do that throughout the organization. When you empower the employees, you connect them to their why. In this case, the county's mission statement, which is serving our community, create a better future. When you do that, you get employees to become engaged and truly buy into the mission of how we improve people's lives every day, regardless of where we are in the enterprise. Sometimes it's a little more obvious than others, but in general, it's really what we're doing. So we're continuing to focus that. Now, at the end of the day, engagement is all about the relationship between the employee and their supervisor. Obviously, that doesn't happen with one person making it work. It happens across the enterprise. All leaders have to buy into that, all managers, all supervisors. The number one driver of engagement with employees is a relationship with their supervisor or their direct manager, nothing else. And so that's why we continue to do leadership training, continue to educate on the leadership system, continue to focus on the people. And at the end of the day, while we may provide a service to the county, whether it's clean water, public transportation, libraries, a 911 call center, fire rescue, we're in the people business. We have 2,800 employees, and without those members of the team showing up every day and doing the best they can, we can't deliver the services that we kind of deliver as a local government. And so this is ultimately a people business that delivers services. And so we have to focus on people, which is why that's the number one priority of the county, number one priority of my leadership team, and why we continue to train and build our leadership skills up so that we continue to improve those relationships and make sure that our people have the tools, resources necessary to do the job and the empowerment so that they can make the decisions at the right level. One of the things that helps me out a lot is being able to focus on, the long-term, big picture, strategic issues that we need to deal with. And one of the ways I can do that is because I got a great team that does great work, and I allow them to do their job and delegate to them the things they need to do. And then, conversely, it continues to roll down the hill. And so that's how you build great engagement, is you focus on the people and take care of them and then connect them to their purpose, the why, as Simon Sinek says, and then you see it really soar. So I think I hit a couple of those questions on engagement and why employees are engaged. And at the end of the day, an engaged employee is somebody that comes to work, is a proponent, is their marketing, they'll recommend to their friends and family what a great place to work Pasco is, and they continue to do that. And so we have a lot of people that do that. And again, part of the thought process is that 98, 99% of people that show up to work for Pasco County want to come and do a great job. And so let's allow them the ability to do that by removing the things that stand in their way, the obstacles that stand in their way, and continue to improve them. So connecting to the why, giving them the tools, training, resources to do their job, and the empowerment to make decisions is how we continue to do that. Now, on the flip side, a disengaged employee typically is one that has had a bad experience, had a supervisor or manager treat them poorly, whether it's somebody that they didn't trust, or maybe they got sold a bill of goods and now that's not being delivered. And so really, again, it goes back to a leadership question, and how are we going to recover and rebuild that trust with those employees so that they become part of the team and not be those those actively disengaged employees that are dragging down performance. Even those, most of them want to do a good job, want to be a value member to the team. So it's about building that leadership culture that goes back and repairs those people issues that have happened that have caused that disengagement. Nobody takes a job wanting to be a disengaged employee. They take a job wanting to be a great employee, wanting to do a great job, and that's why they take the job. And then something happens between them and their leadership team that burns them and flips them. And so, in general, those problems are not easy to solve. The people problems we deal with are the hardest ones to deal with. And so we have to work on that. The leadership team has to be dedicated and focused on working on that, rebuild that trust, rebuild that commitment, making sure that those disengaged employees know that we trust them to do their job, and and work with them to rebuild that relationship and get back to the people piece. And typically when you do that and you work hard and it takes time and it takes work, then you not just take a deeply disengaged employee and make them an engaged employee. They typically flip all the way to become enthusiastic supporters of what we're trying to do. And so, that's a leadership issue. And typically that's a frontline leadership issue and second line leadership issue, so that is why we continue to do the training, continue to provide tools to do that, to continue to build that and help work on that. Because we want everybody that shows up to work here to enjoy it, know that they're really doing a great impact to the county, and helping the people that are in and around Pasco County improve their lives, which is, that's what we do. That's our why. So with that, I'm let's see that one. So I got a question, on county phones. There's why can't we have a phone allowance, and so we don't have to carry two phones? We did a survey on that in 2018, and maybe it's time to readdress that. But in 2018, we did a survey, and the majority did not want to give up their county phone for a phone allowance and use their personal phone. So that is something we can relook at. It's been, I guess, almost 3 years now since that. And so we can relook at that and see if that's something that's available. It's something we were actually interested in doing, because I know what a pain it is to carry two phones. And so, but we reach out to the employees, it's kind of the results we got, and that's why we didn't really do anything at that time. So we will continue to work on that. And yes, any county business is subject to, open records requirements. And so, there's been a couple times where my phone's been, IT's come over and taken the text messages off my phone, because those are while the vast majority are transient, there's until that determination is made, they're a public record. And so, that is an issue. I will say the technology is getting better to be able to do that. And so that's, that probably one takeaway is we'll go back and readdress that and see if the opinion of the employees was kind of shifted to go to maybe one phone and a phone allowance. So we'll see on that one. So working from home, the question of, that's a benefit to people to be able to work from home. As one who struggles to work from home, I will say that to me, that's not a benefit because I can't work from home very well, even though I probably could work from home a lot more than I do. It just is a challenge with the distractions there. And so it takes a special, employee doing special dedicated stuff to be able to focus and do it successfully. I will say we have some areas that are being very successful in that. But again, it's a balance there. And at the end of the day, less than 20% of our employees actually can work from home because of the job they do. The crew workers, the equipment operators, bus drivers, fire rescue, really, the ones that are out the front lines doing the work don't have the ability to work from home. And so we are going to continue that. We have some areas that are being exceedingly successful working from home. Customer service being, one. The call center is very successful working from home, and actually they're being more productive from home than they are in the office. And so we will continue. Some of those may never really come back into the office full time. I know some areas are looking at a 4-1 where you work from home 4 days out of the week and come in 1 day, or a 3-2 or something like that. But that hoteling concept is something that facilities will be working through as part of the master plan, see how that works and what makes sense from a space perspective. So at the end of the day, that's what we'll be doing from work from home. Is it a benefit? I don't know. I think there are a lot of there's a benefit to both the county and to the employee from working from home. If it becomes a long-term solution, there's actually cost savings to the county because there's less space needed for some of those activities, which then benefits the county. So there's a kind of a trade-off there. I know the employees now don't have to commute. Maybe depending on where they are in the organization, maybe their schedule's a little more flexible. But many of those employees could have had a flexible schedule even where they were today. At the end of the day, I think we have a good plan working with our team, the executive team and the HR leadership of how both working remotely and working in the office and making sure we take care of all our employees through the process. And again, continue to reevaluate those things to make sure that those working from home are being successful, and we can make sure we are getting the performance that we need. Another question on pay benefits. The state passed an amendment in the fall to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. I will say that over the last several years, we've continued to raise the floor of what we pay our employees, and I think today we are at $12.52 is the lowest hourly wage we pay a full-time employee for Pasco County, which is the minimum living wage in Pasco County based on the annual MIT study. We will continue to do that, and at the rate that is increasing, we will get at and above $15 an hour ahead of the schedule that was part of what the voters voted on in the fall. Now, I don't know what the feds are going to do. I think to a certain extent, some of the stuff in Washington is going to be very challenging to get anything done just because of the way everything's split right now. And so we will continue to we continue to look at pay. We did a pay study in 19. We'll probably do another one in 22 or 23 that will continue to look at that and make sure that we are paying what the market is saying that the skills and training are worth in the open market. We'll continue to do that, continue to adjust that, and that will help us make sure we have no compression at the bottom end, because those will continue to increase as well. But I say we will probably be at the $15 an hour prior to the requirement in the statute, and so I think we're in good shape there. There's a question about vaccine distribution, and I kind of handle that. The first priority of the governor right now after the direct healthcare workers was the over 65 crowd. We have put together a priority list in the county so that we've tiered our workers and our employees so that we can work through ours when we get a chance. And to a certain extent, we've got in list of those priority workers to emergency management, so that in the case of, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they have 45 minutes before a vaccine expires, and they have 3. They have a list of people they can call to get over to the EOC to take those, because we do not want to waste one shot here in Pasco County. And so we are working through that. But right now, the focus of the governor, and therefore ours, is the over 65 community. And so we're doing that through, the Department of Health is leading the 2 drive-through sites, and we are supporting that through emergency management. The IMT team, the emergency management has, going into some of these the 55 and older communities, because they can do all the logistics with paperwork and stuff. So that's really, until the supply chain opens up, that's really where we're at. We have 130,000 people in Pasco County that are over the age of 65. And so that's the governor's first focus. So that's where we're going to be for a while before we kind of get into the other area. So that's that question. I see a couple questions coming in on the WebEx. Some of them will be, one was about life scans, and that's something that the fire rescue is working on in the current contract. We've been working on trying to improve that every year through the budget process, but that's being worked on right now. In some of these, the next one, I think, on employee discounting, purchasing new cars. We'll get Fleet to kind of work on that, see what we can come up with, and we'll get that out to people. So, I got a question on power plants and power and renewables, and I got a great answer from solid waste on that, or public infrastructure, because if you don't know, we produce a significant amount of power with our waste energy plant every year. So they're kind of the focus on that. I will say that, we are adding a boiler or burner to that, so we'll increase the capacity. And that's, frankly, burning trash is renewable, because we'll have that. That means we're not landfilling it. And so, but the details, the text of that, we'll get out on the website, so you see the detail answered. And really the challenge with renewables is they don't really replace baseload capacity, because they're not a stable source of power throughout the day, throughout the year. And so, baseload capacity is really the next key in power generation. Our waste energy plant does, but that's why the coal plants, natural gas plants, et cetera, are there. They're baseload generators, and then the renewables can do the peak, or better at the peak. So that's in general kind of how that's working right now. So there's a question on utilities and customer service, and why we're not opening up the counters, and got a great answer from them. I'll say I talked to Sandra yesterday because I had some of the same questions, and their current operation, and I'm going to continue to watch that, but their current operation allows them to put more people on the phones and email responding to questions, which was really the limiting factor, and really where they had the most complaints pre-pandemic. So they've kind of allowed them to balance, if you will, a little bit their focus on where their customer calls are coming from, and meet the need that way. And so with their drive-throughs, they're kind of going what they implement the Chick-fil-A method of interacting with their customers in the drive to kind of speed that through the process. I know that some of the reasons people come in are paperwork dependent, and we're trying to push that online, to set up new accounts and stuff, trying to get that online so that they don't have to actually physically come in. And I know that Sandra and her team are working on that. So, more to follow that, and the detailed answer will get up on the website with that. So let's see. All right, so working through some of the questions. And like I said, some of the technical questions I'm getting online, we'll get a more detailed answer from the department. One of the questions that I'll go back to didn't answer was I got a question asked about in episode 1 of the Pasco podcast. And if you didn't know, we're up to episode 5 now. I'll say the guests are doing a great job on that. So if you get a chance, take some time, go listen, watch to them, however you download podcast or do a podcast. We do both video and the traditional podcast, audio only. But the question was, during the lightning round, I mentioned the last album I downloaded was one of Kanye's albums. And so, a little more questions on that. Which album? How'd you get into it? Yes, I probably pronounced his name. I probably ignored the Y, and it was probably Kane is probably what I was saying. Although I don't know if I mentioned it very much because I wasn't necessarily into a whole lot of his music. So I'm not necessarily a big hip hop kind of guy, but that was it was sitting in church and they mentioned that Kanye dropped what they would consider a Christian album, which was interesting. And so that was the one I went and downloaded, just wanted to listen to that. And actually it's a very well produced album, very, very good, and interesting, well done album. So that it was, I can't remember the title of it now. But that was the one I downloaded. And again, if you ask me today, the last album I downloaded, I looked this morning, was a Santana album. Before that, Pink Floyd, older stuff. So it varies. I can't really peg it. I mean, the next thing may be, Robert Earl Keen, rough Texas country music. So it kind of just depends on the mood I'm in. So that's where I got that one. Question got in about can employees only get promoted to open positions? What if there are no more positions above where an employee currently is at? Does that mean an employee is now stagnant or stuck? So one of our challenges in a government organization, and we've dealt with, I've had this discussion before with some of our younger leaders, is that, this isn't like a business where if I have a great, upcoming leader, I can say, hey, you know what, let's enter into this new market area. We'll establish a line of business for you and promote you to senior VP. Now go take over this new market that we're going to try to go into, whether that's product line or a region, area. And so we don't have that ability to do that. And so we're very, unfortunately, hierarchical organization. And so it's a challenge to, we tend to, right now, we have more high quality, very well qualified people than we have leadership positions over time. And especially as engagement improves, our retention rates will continue to jump and we'll continue to keep great people longer in their positions, which then gets to be that challenge about growth and promotability. And so, we are working through that. We're continuing to try to improve our employees' skills across the board. Training will be an area of focus as we kind of jump into the budget to make sure that we are rebuilding some of those things that we kind of cut when the pandemic hit. And so, part of that is continue to build our employees where they are, continue to push down and delegate tasks to them so they continue to grow, even if, the position doesn't change. Now, as part of that, we, through HR, will continue to look at the work people are doing and making sure it's graded correctly. And if the work and the scope of their work increases, that will be reflected as part of that process in the grading, the pay grade, and the salary structure, if you will. So there is ability to grow that. That doesn't happen overnight. And so, unfortunately, sometimes, I know my frustrations is that sometimes we act at the speed of government because that's what we are. And the key is how do we accelerate that as best we can while maintaining the course and speed of the strategic plan and the things the board wants. And so, it's a challenge. Some of our open positions we only will post internal. only when we know we have really good candidates. Some have to be external just from a how and why we're hiring people into that position. But at the same time, we want to collect and attract as best and as good talent as we can. And so if there's talent out there we can add to the team, we want to go after it. Which means we have a couple of recruiters that work over in HR that work on recruiting to continue to attract some of the excellent talents that's out there to Pasco County, and frankly where we are from an engagement perspective, where we are from workplace perspective. People are starting to understand what a great thing it is to work for Pasco County, and we are starting to get applicants, continuing to get applicants that are better and better. The quality is going up and up over the last 2.5, 3 years as people start to hear and continue to hear the great things that we're doing here in Pasco County, really from an employee and the personal relationship perspective, and what a great place it is to work. So, know that we recognize that our organizational structure is very hierarchical. It is very hard we just can't create a new department, new line of business, and so that we can promote somebody into it. And so we have to work within those constraints. That said, we continue to work to give our employees and continue to grow them through additional tasks, delegation, trust them to do their job so that they can continue to grow in that. So not an easy solution. Like I said, we just can't add a new line of business and promote somebody into senior VP and have them go run it. Unfortunately, that's not the way we're organized and won't be the way we're organized. Just kind of a restriction. So another question I had that we will answer online is pretty technical about the Upper Pithacoti Preserve and the road leading out of that, and we're working on trying to get some solutions to that. But in general, I think I've gotten through most of the questions I have. So if you got something didn't get answered, throw it in the chat. I will say that still getting great questions, whether it's beforehand or in the chat. Some of the technical stuff we're going to get answered outside of this. Some of the stuff I can answer, I'll answer the best I can. I will say, I'm exceedingly proud of the work we're doing across the enterprise and happy with where we are. But I consider where we are in a good place. We've gone from where we were 3.5 years ago to good, but we now need to take the next leg up to great. And so that is our focus. I will say getting from good to great is more difficult than getting to where we are today from where we were 3.5 years ago. It's going to take more effort, more focus, continued improvement in our leadership and personal relationships and how we work with people. But at the end of the day, I think we can get there. It's just a matter of continue to chop away at it and continue to focus on the big things. We're wrapping up the strategic plan to present that to the board later this year. The focus areas are going to stay the same. The pillars are going to stay the same. The goal teams are working on in those areas, the goals and the strategies into those and what our measures are to see how and when we may reach the goal. Those are being worked on now. A lot of the intent in the old strategic plan will stay the same. The language may change. The KPIs definitely will be updated to be to more reflective of things that are better measures of the work we're doing and the work we need to do to get to that level. I will say we continue to see results from the work we're doing. Just in the last week, 2 of Kathy's departments won national awards, or people in them won national awards. 2 in animal services and community development won national awards. So people out there recognizing the great work we do. And so, we're going to continue to do that. And so, thank you for that. That does not happen here. That happens throughout the depth of the organization with people buying into the why we do it and how we want to do things. And so thank you for that, and we'll continue to do great work. So another question that just came in is, can we get employee discounts at fitness centers and gyms? And I think we already have some out there. Again, well, some of these questions, I know HR has some of the answers and has some of that stuff. And so I'll get with them and we'll send some more of that stuff out. Or if you're interested in the benefits page inside Pasco has a lot of that information already, but maybe we need to push some of that stuff out again. So anyway, with that, I'm out of questions. And I guess I'll just end with that. The board appreciates where we are. They appreciate where we're going. They believe that the county has continued to move in a good direction and has made significant leaps and improvements over the last several years. So I pass it on to you to keep up the good work. We know we still have areas we need to improve. I've been sitting down with the PDAs over the last week, and every one of them to a person has said, doing great work, but there's so much more we can do. So there are more areas out there, more things that we can continue to do. Our communications team put together a quick video for an event coming up in the next week or so, and I love the end on it that they tagged. The very last tagline of that was Pasco County, and I'm gonna not get the wording exactly right, but it's Pasco County local government reimagined. And so that is what we're doing. That is innovation and customer service all built into one, or service excellence built into one. So please keep up the good work, and you'll see that video soon. Probably in the next week or two, you'll get a chance to see that as the event that was cut for is next Wednesday night. So anyway, thanks for all you do. Again, some of the questions I answered, the answer from the subject matter experts will be posted on the website. But thank you for everything. Thank you for the questions. We appreciate it. And keep up the great work, and we will see you around. So, bye.